Okay, so the last bit we're going to do in this topic of univariate data is we're going to, when we compare distributions of a numerical variable. So it's still one variable in terms of, but we will compare it over two groups. So say, for example, we might collect the heights of a group of males and a group of females and compare it. So height is the variable and it's numerical, and then we would compare whether we're going to see, compare the differences between males and females. We might also, like another example, it could be like class results. Say, I could get two classes of the results of the same test, and then I'll compare across them. So we're going to be comparing. It's still univariate because it's not coming from the same source. It's two groups of the same data, the same type of data. So what we're going to do, and we could compare them, a good way to compare numerical when you've got these two lists of the same data is you can do a parallel box plot. So if you want to just draw a little picture, that's when you have you'll just have two box plots, and we went over that the other day on how to draw them up on our calculator. Or we could do a back-to-back stem and leaf plot. So this is where you have the stem. So say we had males this side, females this side, and say we were doing a stem and leaf plot. So we will see the data go out like that and so on. All right, so what we're going to do, the big thing is that we're going to be looking at is we're going to compare. So when we're comparing, that means when we talk about it, we must use comparing words. So let's just put up here, so comparing words. So I'm going to be looking for this. If these words are not there, you're not going to get the marks. And this is a big part in next year in year 12, in your SACs, and also in the exam. Unless you're comparing it, so comparing means you're saying, you look at both of them. So comparing words could be things like higher, it's higher or lower, or it could be similar. So that's, they're comparing words. You could have more or less or the same, like they're also comparing words. So that's what we're looking for. So if we don't see that comparing word, you won't get the mark. All right, so it's pretty important for that. Now, the other important thing is what you're comparing is you need to compare statistics. So you can't just say, like, say we were talking about here, let's have a look at this one. So we've got the length in centimeters of the right foot for a group of 20 males and 20 female students in Year 9, and they've put the data there. You can't just say you can't just say the men's length of foot was larger or bigger or more than the females. You need to put a stat in there. So a statistic is the other thing we're looking for. So I might say, I would say that the median foot length for males was higher than females, and then I'll quote the stat. So here's a way just to practice. So they're sort of warming you up because you'll have to write a whole sort of summary statement. When we ask you to compare, you'll have to write a statement. This one is just helping you learn how to do that. So if we look at it here, it says complete the sentence by entering the values of the medians and choosing the correct alternative, which is the correct comparing word. So let's have a look. It says the foot length for males with the median. So what if we read off, what's the median for males? It looks like 26. So we'd pop 26 in there. And then 26, is it longer or shorter than the females? And it's pretty much self-explanatory, isn't it? Like the males are probably going to have a bigger foot than females. So we're going to circle a longer. So the foot length for males with a median of 26 is longer than the foot length of females with a median of, what's their one, 24? 24. Okay, so, sorry. That is the type of comment. So this is the type of comment that we would write for our statement. We just have to write that sentence. But we want to compare. So it's good to compare the medians. But if we're comparing the whole set of data, it's probably good to look at the spread. So remember, spread is to do with the IQR. So IQR is remember the IQR is a measure of spread. Because the more spread out data is, it means like we've got like data across a big range. So therefore you're like, oh yeah, so, and if it's not as variable, it means most of our data is sitting around, a one area. So it's important to say whether data is more variable than another. So we're going to compare. So when we're comparing spread, we're going to use the IQR. The IQR is good for all cases. The range can be used. So remember, the range is maximum minus minimum, but it's no good if we have outliers, because it's not a really good indication, because the outliers make the range really big. And when it's not real, like the data is really might not be sitting around such a large area. So you can't go wrong with quoting the IQR. So let's just always try to do the IQR. That would be the way to get around it next year as well. You will not make an error if you always use the IQR. So let's look at the IQR. So remember, the IQR is Q3 minus Q1. And I just want you to do that so we could work them out. So let's say the IQR for the females here. So here's Q1, which we're going to say is maybe 22, and their Q3 is 25.5. So let's go. So the female IQR would be 25.5 minus 22. So I'm going to say is 3.5. And if I work out the IQR for the males, so we're just doing this so that you can see where these numbers came from. So that, is 28.5. And then we've got 25. So the male IQR is 28.5 minus 25. So they also have an IQR of 3.5. So both of them have a similar spread, because they're both 3.5. So they're all sort of hanging around, not spread. They're both the same amount of spread. So let's complete this sentence by entering the values of the IQR and choosing the correct alternative. So the foot length for males with an IQR of 3.5 centimeters is, and I'm going to say, similar in variability. So that's a word we would use when we're talking about spread. We say, we either say more variable, less variable, or similar variability to the foot length with a female's IQR of 3.5. So that's an example. That was just helping us so we could learn how to write it without prompts. So this is what we would be writing in our statement if we were to just write it ourselves, okay? That highlighted bit. So let's go down and let's have a practice of this data. So here we've got a back-to-back stem and leaf plot, and it's the male life expectancy, and it was taken in 1970. They looked at the data, and then they compared some data in 2010. So this is back to back. So this side is the 2010 and this side is the thing. So they've given me all the statistics. So say in a test or a SAC next year, you might have to find those statistics yourself and then comment. But just so we know we've done that. We know that fact at the moment. So they've given it to us. And what we're going to do is write a statement. So let's go, and I want you to copy down what I write. Okay, so with the statement, we've written it here. I want you to highlight in your notes so that you can see this is what I will be and examiners will be looking for. And I want you to highlight it so then when you look to write yours in your test, you're making sure. So I'm going to say, we're going to highlight here, and we're going to look the median life expectancy of males in 2010 was 76. So here you can see in 2010, this is me doing the stats, was higher. Now, the higher, there is the comparing word. So it was higher than the median life expectancy of 1970 with 76 years. Sorry. So I want to put that. Oh, no. Okay, sorry. So the median life expectancy was there. Okay, so what we're going to write down here, pop in that the pink was we're talking about the stats. Okay, and the other thing we'll be looking for is the green is what I'm looking for, and I'll be looking for the comparing word. So if we look at the next part of the statement, like when we're comparing, so the spread of male life expectancy in 2010 with an IQR of 8 years was less variable. So you can see here, if I go less variable is the comparing word, and you can see I've used the stat in there with the 2 IQRs. Okay, so that's what is important to pop in there. Okay, so if we have a look at this example of our comment, our statement, it says the median pulse rate for males with a 72 beats per minute was lower than the females median. So females median of that. So there's me putting a stat, and the female spread of pulse rate was more variable with an IQR of 15 compared to the male's IQR. So there is me putting in the stats, and if you go back and you look, I'll look for the comparing words. There it is with lower, and then also we've got more variable. So there is the comparing word. Okay, so that's where I'm looking for. That's where you're going to get the marks that you've written that properly.